Well, hi, welcome to the Roving Crafters. It's Sunday, and I'm Jen, and that makes this Sunday Stitch. And this Sunday, it's stranded knitting. The way I do stranded knitting and the way a lot of people prefer to do stranded knitting is with one color in the left hand and one color in the right hand. So that, let's say that that's color A, which I'm knitting English style, and color B, which I'm knitting continental. There are ways of holding both strands on the right finger or both strands on the left finger. But this is the method that I use, and it's the method that I've decided to teach today. I can tell you, if you were sitting in one of my classes across the table from me and you wanted to learn stranded knitting and you weren't comfortable with continental style knitting, here's what I would have you do first. I would have you take one strand in your left hand and knit a whole round, or maybe two, continental to practice. Take the working yarn in your left hand, and I like to pick it up with my palm up facing me, like that, and then turn my palm down. So then this is how I'm tensioning my yarn around these three fingers, and I hold the working yarn over my left index finger. Push your right tip into the next stitch, and with your working yarn with your left index finger, lift it up over the right needle, tap, 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 that's important, and then pull your knit stitch through and off. I do have videos here where I go into detail about continental style knitting, and I've linked those in the blog post that this video is associated with. As I said, this is how I start my lessons on stranded knitting for most people who come to me and they aren't that comfortable with continental style knitting. Knit a round or two, or as many as you feel like you need to first, with just the one strand in your left hand. Get some practice in. Get to where you're comfortable with it. Pick up the yarn, palm up, turn your palm down, pick up the working yarn with your left index finger. Insert to the stitch, and take your working yarn, bring it up between the two needles, over the right tip, to the back, tap, pull through, and off. I'm going to finish up this round all the way back to the beginning with my solid white here, and then we will start stranded knitting for real, and I'll meet you there. And here we are. I'm coming to the end of my one round in white, and that wasn't too hard now, was it? Well, the reason why I teach stranded knitting with one color in the left and one in the right is because if you're going to learn a new method of managing two strands at the same time, learning this method with both strands in the right, or learning this method with both strands in the left, you know, that's a skill that is useful, but it's only really useful for color work. If you're going to learn a new skill, take the time to learn how to knit continental style, because that is a skill that you can use in knitting all the time. That's my reasoning anyway. So here we are. I've finished one round in white, and I'm going to do the next round with both strands, stranded knitting. So I take one strand, get it ready in my left, one strand, get it ready in the right. I hold them both with tension with my 2 index fingers, but not a lot of tension. And we'll talk about tensioning and the floats that happen in the back here in a minute. But let's just concentrate on the beginning. 1 stitch with the left hand, 1 stitch with the right. And if you're holding them, 1 in each hand, you're not going to worry about getting your strands crossed or tangled because they're separated. And the left with the right. The left with the right. With the right. So, as I said, one advantage of using the two-handed method is you're not going to get tangled up. The other advantage comes from something that we call color dominance. When you knit with one color continental style and one traditional or English style, you will find that one color is dominant in your work, and it's the color that's in your left hand, because those stitches will be a little bit bigger, not much. They're made a little looser, they're a little bigger, so when they sit in your work right next to each other, they're a little poofier, and when you pull your knitting down, and of course a good blocking helps with that, whichever color you're keeping in your left hand is the color that pops out a little bit in your color work. Let me tell you, it's a subtle effect, but overall, once your whole piece is finished and knitted, it can make a real difference. And it can give your work a little bit of extra polish. Which leads me to my next point. When you're doing stranded knitting, you're going to, of course, start your piece, whether it's a hat or something much bigger like a sweater, and put it down, and pick it up and put it down several times. So maybe on your pattern, or wherever it is that you're used to sitting and working, keep a little note next to you that lets you know which color it is that you're keeping in your left hand and which color it is that you're keeping in your right hand, so that when you pick up your work, you're consistent. You're going to want to preserve whichever color you've chosen to be dominant. You're going to want to preserve that. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about the floats that happen along the back side of the work. They're hard to see right now because I'm just doing 1 stitch of one color and 1 stitch of the next, which makes my floats along the back quite small. So let's mix this up. I'm going to do 4 in a row of the black. Position, and 4, oops, with white. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which will make my floats. Here's my white float right here, because it has to cross 1, 2, 3, 4, and when I work my next black stitch, there will be my black float. Let's do that. Like that. Okay. It is very important that these floats, whether they're 1 stitch across or 4 stitches across, or well, 5 is the largest that I'm comfortable with, but some people will go up to 7 or 9. these floats, no matter how long they are, you need to keep them nice and loose. They need to not be pulled tight. Here's why. When you have a float going that gets pretty long, it can be very tempting, instead of just letting it sit nice and loose like that, you can, let's see if I can do this, pull it too tight. Like that. And a whole series of very tight floats will make your work pucker out to the front. And when your work is puckering towards the front because of tight floats in the back, your color work will never stretch out, block out, and lay flat. It will look very bumpy and uneven. So when you're starting stranded knit, you're doing your first couple of projects, try to keep these floats nice and loose in the back, and just know that loose is better than tight, because a loose float back there won't hurt anything, but a really tight float back there will. Loose is better. And one of the ways that I always stay nice and loose is I will do, let's say we'll do a total of 4 here, and if I feel like it's getting tighter, or even if I'm just worried about it, I stop, grab that needle, tug down, opens up all these stitches, and it keeps your work kind of loose. Definitely gives you some extra play. There you go. A little quick summary. Work one color in the left hand, one in the right, so you never have to worry about getting your floats tangled up and bunching up and twisted up in the back. Always be consistent about which color you keep in your left hand and which in your right, because you want to preserve your color dominance. And when it comes to your tension, loose is better. Oh, keep relaxed. Try to keep your hands nice and relaxed and your shoulders relaxed. And I'll tell you, one of the best things for your tension is put on some music that you like. If you can keep yourself, I know that that's a silly trick, but if you can keep yourself in a good mood while you knit, your tension will be better and more consistent. There you go. That's stranded knitting. Until next time.